$1.7 million. Then DRC have done only 14%. They have an outstanding amount of $20.7 million. Kenya is paid 100%, paid up 100%. Rwanda is paid up 100%. Somalia has paid up 50%. South Sudan has paid up to only 7%. Tanzania is paid up 100%. Uganda is paid up 102%. So you can see the tabulation in terms of the challenge around economic sharing and the challenges it brings in managing the East African community. Then we elaborate a little that there's conversation ongoing on the formula of financing the East African community. There's a proposal, and it's now quite advanced, waiting the summit approval, where the financing model would be altered slightly, and the analysis of that is on page 8. We are calling it the proposed hybrid model. On page 7 is the table of the proposed, and then we give the implications of the proposed model on page 8. It runs through explaining what will be the implications when this new hybrid model is adopted in matters of financing. Then there's also the aspect of rotational leadership and governance structure. Normally within the summit, there's a rotation of 1 year. Currently, President Ruto is the chair of the summit. He took over from South Sudan in Arusha. Going by the process, I think Somalia is supposed to be taking up the next chair after President Ruto finishes his tenure. It may be good to just put it on record that Kenya stepped in because DRC did not turn up at the last summit. That was about a year ago in Dar es Salaam. And they were slated to take over from South Sudan. When they did not, the summit then took a decision that Kenya takes over. Okay. Then we have the aspects of modifying the economic complementarity and treaty integration issues. So that brings, in a way, closure to aspect 1 of your query, your memo to us. And then we have the second aspect, which was the ongoing security concerns on Migigo Island between Kenya and Uganda. We have given you the current situation, the underlying issues, and also the challenges that we are facing. Recently, for record purposes, when President Museveni made a visit just last week, this issue was also attended to, and the technical teams between the two countries were tasked to get together so that they can resolve the issues around Migingo, particularly the boundary-related issues. And over and above this, I think it's good for the committee to know that the issue of the boundary delimitation is ongoing, not just around the lake area, but also Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and all that. It's a very expensive exercise, but it is a process that is ongoing, and you have to involve all parties where there's a common border. You can never do it unilaterally. You have to have both states. So sometimes the slowness is because of budgetary issues in different states at different times. So you may find that they may not avail their people all the time. But we have the Kibos team, which is tasked with that. I think on the Tanzania side, we are doing almost 1,000 kilometers of delimitation. We've done quite a bit in the north. In the lake, there are still issues, not just Kenya and Uganda alone, but all the three countries there. There are issues about the lake that still need to be sorted out. We still have to cover a lot on the Uganda side, Somalia side, but it's a process. And international practice and everything, you must work as partners. So it can never be done unilaterally on this one. Okay. So we hope that we can resolve the Migingo, and we feel that when there's a visit where President Museveni comes and meets with the Kenyan side, his counterpart, but he came with a delegation of virtually every relevant minister to the issues of the East African community. So there's now an ongoing process in every department that may be related to this. Then there's the third aspect of your concerns on page 11, measures to foster cooperation and mutual respect to address mistrust and suspicion among East African communities. And we list out on page 12 the frameworks. One is the treaty. We have the draft protocol. This is on page 12 of 35. The East African Treaty. We have the draft protocol on good governance. We have the conflict prevention, management and resolution mechanism, and we have the East African Court of Justice. Those are the institutional framework to address any misunderstandings that could arise. Then we continue to push for economic integration, and that is why even the issues that are raised, which will come in the appendix to your earlier document, which relate to the trade and so forth, we may come back to that when we get there. Then we work on harmonization of policies and laws, and then issues of addressing non-tariff barriers. The third aspect, measures we put in place, is people-to-people connections and cultural exchange. And here we focus on free movement of persons. By and large, this has been enforced without any hiccup. We have not really had too much of a problem. That means this has improved tremendously. We have cultural and sports exchanges, and as we speak, the three East African countries, the first, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, for instance, are already hosting the CHAN as a joint bid. Then we have awareness creations. We have aspects of security and defense cooperation. And then the issues of joint border management. I'm sure you may have seen what happens at Namanga or Malaba or Busia. You find there's a joint aspect of border management. The fourth aspect in your memo to us, you wanted to look at potential benefits that Kenya gains from an expanded East African community membership. And we are now, when we look at the numbers, there are now 8 nations, a population of maybe about 300 million, We don't know, but there could be other members who may be coming on board soon. I may not want to pronounce that, but there are diplomatic engagements going on, for instance, with Ethiopia, to consider that possibility. But I cannot speak to it in detail because it's work in progress. But the benefits are listed out there. We have an expanded market, common market. We can have accelerated manufacturing in the region. We can create creation of cross-border investment opportunities. Business people from different countries partnering and working together. This can be a benefit. Diversified trade partners. We can share common resources. We can work on agricultural cooperation and so many other. For instance, we are already talking about extending the SGR to Malaba. We are talking of the Nakuru Mau Summit to Malaba Road. These are aspects, connections around Swam to finish off the connection so that Kenyans and Ugandans can do business together. We have the LAPSET that remains a very important investment strategy and program from Lamu all through to Sudan and Ethiopia, South Sudan and Ethiopia. So these are critical areas that we can all benefit from. So we think even through your parliamentary diplomacy, if I may put it that way, you can help us systematically in lobbying your counterparts that there are benefits of serious integration. So we have a larger market access, and with more integration, we can reduce trade barriers. So this is one of the benefits that can accrue. We can cooperate on matters energy. Since virtually from the very early days we have bought power from Uganda. Now we are accessing power from Ethiopia as well. So these are parts. We are looking at accessing LPG from Tanzania into Kenya. So there are very serious issues that we can all benefit from in this context. So again, it's in the document. Then the fifth aspect, you asked tangible benefits Kenya has received from the EAC, considering the position as one of the largest financial contributors. I think the best way we can respond to this question is on page 19 of the document. We have tried to break this down into charts. This figure 1 is a percentage share of Kenyan exports to different market destinations. And in this, you will see what is exported to Europe, what is the percentage of the Europe market, what is the percentage of America, and then you can see the percentage, the total percentage to Africa. Kenya's exports to Africa constitutes 38.2%, bigger than what we export to Europe, bigger than what we export to America. And then you can see in Asia, our exports to Asia now hit 28.5%. Then Australia, it's 0.35%, and other countries 2.6%. Now, obviously, when we talk of Africa, East African community is the largest component of the exports to Africa. So without even speaking to too many issues, even if you just look at this, it can help you answer a lot of the geopolitics that is going on. The various debates people engage in. You can see Europe is 22.2% of our exports. America is only 8.4% of our exports. Africa is 38.2% of our exports. Asia is 28.5% of our exports. And then the others constitute the 3%. So I think that helps contextualize so many things that are flying around for people to understand. Sometimes it's perhaps not the noise that you make, but what do the numbers speak about? All right, so that summary, it goes down to page 20, Madam Chair. Now, I talked of Africa. Now, that helps you to see the East African exports. In 2020, the exports to the East African community were 64.3% of the exports to Africa. And this figure has been growing to the extent that our exports to Africa, to the East African countries, now constitute 75.5% of our exports to Africa. Therefore, the East African community is an extremely important economic bloc for us. And therefore, we need to understand, if I may go a little bit political and digress a little, that even if there are issues, we must solve them diplomatically. We cannot go any other route. And we must also understand that we cannot go and ruffle the feathers of our neighbors. Because how many families are dependent on these numbers? Very many families, millions of people. So we cannot afford to antagonize our neighbors. If there are issues, we have to resolve them quickly, but diplomatically. I don't think I can say anything else, but we help you with the statistics on also further on the next figures, all the way breaking down the trade, the investment, that goes all the way up to page 26, Madam Chair. And I don't want to say too much, but for instance, if I just talk of the financial sector, Kenyan banks have a footprint of 553 branches in the entire East African community. So the Kenyan financial sector is the anchor for the entire East African region when it comes to finance. That's a very big benefit, and equally a very big challenge. So more than 50% of the financial network in the entire East African region is Kenya. So we have, if you can understand what it all means to us, and we will be relying on you a lot to help us also disseminate this thing, this critical sensitivity to our citizens, because they sometimes make emotional statements, but the reality is that there's very many issues that need to be handled. We work together on security issues to deal with extremist groups. We must work together. We cannot work in isolation. We must work with our neighbors with various security challenges. So that ends, if I may put it, up to 26. I've given that. Then you also requested that you wanted actions taken by Kenya to address work permit challenges for its citizens in East African partner states, with special focus on Tanzania. Madam Chair, we have written an outline on the issues that we are pursuing with Tanzania, running all the way from page 27 to page 35. Up to, I'm sorry, page 29 up to page 30. Up to page 30, not 35, but page 30. So, in summary, we ask Tanzania to consider reciprocal treatment on issuance of business pass gratis to Kenyans entering Tanzania. The passes be issued for multiple entries, because sometimes you're being told up and down, while us, we have allowed free movement. In certain areas, there's still some bureaucracy there. And then to deal with charges on work permits and so forth. So these are conversations that we are having, some of which also have played out in the recent adjustment. There are several bills that support integration, and Madam Chair, from page 30, you will see issues around the legislative aspects of IALA. They are tabulated all the way we name the act and the specific issues, so that you'll have in your detailed analysis, you can review them. And then we have also given you the full membership of the parliamentarians from all the East African community member states. Then there's an appendix. I don't know whether you got it. This is the one that deals with the trade measures instituted by the United Republic of Tanzania that pose a significant threat to regional economic integration and Kenya's trade interests, under the Tanzania Business Licensing Prohibition of Business Activities for Notice Order of 2025. This we got as additional information you required after you had sent the first one. So we have attempted to quickly respond to the issues that you wanted. And Madam Chair, I think in the interest of time, bearing that Parliament is beckoning, can I just say that the document is now with you, responding also to the recent measures and the actions we have taken through the diplomatic channels. And over and above that, I have penned off, or rather I'll be penning off a letter to my counterpart Foreign Affairs Minister, who doubles up as the East African Community Minister, outlining the implications, which are now in the document I've shared with you, to our business people, and telling them to look at that afresh so that we can resolve this amicably and avoid what we might call retaliation measures. We don't want to go there at this point in time. But what is clear is that we are pushing, and the value of the economic bloc is so important to us, and it's only clear that we keep on working at it. It must be work in progress at all times to make sure that this economic bloc functions smoothly. There are some issues when we talk to the ones who have not paid. The protocols we want to amend to introduce the hybrid system and all that also means that we want to try and address a situation where Kenya is not carrying the burden alone, or Tanzania is not carrying the burden alone, or Rwanda or Uganda, because you will notice that there are some countries that are not making they have not made serious payments, but their parliamentarians are drawing salaries and from basically a few countries who are the core in terms of their contribution, who have been regular in their contribution. So these are issues that we must be seized with, and then we work towards resolving. But ultimately, the most important thing is to make sure that we have everybody within the community and meeting their obligations. Because again, I don't think it would be wise to push them out or to have them walk away. The idea is to see how you can encourage them so that everybody is within the East African community. I think I'll end there, but perhaps if I've missed something, with your permission, if she can either flag it now or she can take it up from the questions. Stand guided.
Do you have anything to just give us for maybe 5 minutes?
She's okay.
She's okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Prime Cabinet Secretary, for your responses, which are very well taken. I'm sure members have additional questions to it, but you've really helped us in understanding some of the issues that we've been grappling with. So I'll allow my members to ask any questions before we can give a final response.
Thank you, Chair, members, and the Prime Cabinet Secretary. I want to draw my attention and your attention to Article 76 of our treaty on establishment of the common market and all that it entails, the free movement of goods, services, and the people. In the recent time, we have seen our lawyers kicked out, particularly out of Tanzania, in some instances in Uganda. What is happening in the cross-border legal practice? Why is Kenya ceding the ground to very length? Why is Kenya ceding the ground too much, such that we allow the lawyers to come and practice? If I may quote the instance or the case of Honorable Mother Karua, where they were not even allowed, and even the talks in Parliament that were not very good towards Kenya. Why is Kenya treating the community with so soft gloves, in the spirit of we don't want to pick anyone? And number two, the free movement of goods, people, and services. The legal practice is a service. The treaty is established without limits. So if you are not giving that service to our East African citizens in Tanzania, in Uganda, are we really abiding by the treaty? Then finally, in the recent time, as per the documents that you have given us, we have had the issues of the small businessmen and women kicked out or paying permit, licenses, and fines. here in Gikomba market, we have thousands of Tanzanians. When you drive along Uhuru Highway, we have thousands of Burundians selling jugu, machungwa, name it. So I would say it is our considered view as the Committee of Regional Integration, noting well that the community is like a family, but it is our considered view if the ministry can consider to revoke the work permit R or the class R of the permit to the citizens, unless a country is reciprocating back to Kenya. Because why are we allowing, in the current times, Prime Cabinet Secretary, why the Gen Zs are on the street is because purely they don't have jobs. And this is a global challenge. Kenya, like any other country, is also having very limited job opportunity. So the little that we have, our country open. Who advises the president or your ministry such that they open outsiders to flood in Kenya for every single opportunity that our youths or our women and other persons in the country would also grab and live with it. So we are considering to ask if this class R permit will be revoked, because what you have given us here is that there are talks. So as we are talking, can we also hold them so that as we continue talking, when we agree, then now we can move together. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think I tried to be fast. And first of all, let me allow me to thank the PCS for finding time to join us. This is a discussion where the slogan is saying widening and deepening the relationship of EAC. And I'm sure this one will give us that course. Quickly, following your presentation, because of time, I'm sure you gave summary for record purpose. You raise a very critical issues on the matter of boundary review, and I think this is an information to all of us, but probably it would be fair if you could complete that information to know exactly who is spearheading this boundary, which set of committee that is overseeing this one, so that it cannot be an exercise in futility later. We see conflict arising. Who is spearheading it? And how is it funded? You said it's a very expensive project. The other issue is we've seen over time member states, especially the first one, Tanzania, and at times certainly Uganda, not that much, some precipits of non-committal to the protocol of EAC. When they bluntly make out some statement that seem to negate the binding of this. What is your ministry doing, and more so since we double up as the secretary to the EAC comes from Kenya, and the chairman of the summit also is in Kenya, the president of the Republic of Kenya. What measures are you undertaking? You brought up the issue of lapset, and for quite some time, I'm sure I'm not alone, this thing has gone sideways. How active is it? Are we still on course on it? Because you are discussing that Ethiopia still at an early stage of discussing of joining the member state. It's good to understand and for Kenyans to know the economic viability of the money that has been invested here. When is it going to give back? It's so silent, we really don't know what's happening, especially at the board of Lamu and the corridor that is coming up through for that. And then the other issue, all these issues, of course, I'm sure it requires a resolve mechanism. Is there a resolve mechanism so that we can sustain this relationship? Lastly, yesterday we saw in our dailies in Kenya, and of course, I don't know, the paper that was carrying this weight information on the relationship between Kenya and the United States, they have been bringing negative every now and then in their frontage. We don't know whether this is true or wrong or false, but it came a discussion that the Congress, the House of Representatives in America, are discussing the relationship of Kenya and America, and more so the issue of NATO ally that Kenya was admitted to. And we know it has some ramifications. We know Kenya also being a member of AGOA, where
it stands to benefit from the economic relationship from your ministry, Bwana PCS. It is good you tell us what are the responses that gone silent, because such a magnitude matter being discussed has got a lot of implications, especially on investments, foreign direct investments, the confidence that the country had gained, and political geopolitics. It's good we get to know from this one. Thank you so much. I never forget Kenya is penetrating. Then I saw coffee is beginning to penetrate to the United States from Kenya. And they are saying any aroma coffee that are burning comes from Kenya. I don't know why. So we need to protect that.
Thank you, PCS. Thank you, Chair. We'll just be discussing my colleague here. Any politicians has a right to petition anything. Either in Kenyan Parliament, we can also petition the USA. So I think the issues that happen in the Senate in the USA are just political discourses that should not bother PCS. PCS, who is a lesser evil between USA and China in terms of trade volumes and bilateral relationships? Because where we are going, we need also to address who are our genuine partners. Two, is it time for us now to say that there are businesses within East African community that must be protected and be reserved for the locals? A case in point is what is happening in Tanzania, where businessmen or businesswomen who are doing small business from other countries are being sent home. Can we do the same as Mheshimiwa Mulia said, that we reciprocate the same and say that don't come and do a butcher business here, don't come and do M-Pesa business in Kenya, but you can do other businesses that have a very high value of turnover. Lastly, last week we visited the Republic of Rwanda and Burundi. We were very shocked that the good government of Rwanda and Burundi did offer Kenya land to construct a mission or an embassy. 3 years down the line, the embassies or the missions have not been constructed, and the land maybe in Burundi was reverted back to government. The one in Rwanda was reverted back to government, but the one in Burundi is still there. Is there a plan within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to address this issue of our missions abroad? And lastly, PCS, some of our staffs in these missions are really suffering. Look at Burundi, our engagement with the staff at the mission. Burundi seems to be a very hardship area compared to other East African regions, at the cost of living, the security issues, and many other issues within that country. Can you consider maybe putting Burundi in the list of the hardship missions so that our officers in those missions feel part and parcel of officers within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and the PCS. I want to appreciate the presentation. And Chair, I've been a teacher of geography for 20 years. So here, I'm happy for this information. It is in Form 4 syllabus of trade, a topic on trade. So the fact that we remain with this, I can go back and teach that class. And Chair, I want to focus on this issue about the Migingo Highland, the security concerns. You've actually given the information about the challenges, the cause of these challenges, and how to address. However, when you talk about how to address, you've said that the two countries have engaged in numerous diplomatic discussions to find amicable solution. But you didn't go further to tell us how it has yielded, if it has yielded any results. Because if the case is still pending and the issues are still pending, has it yielded any result? And then if that is the case, so looking at our people, on the second part, you've actually said that both countries have deployed the forces, security forces around the highland. But you've said it has also been a source of tension and accusation of harassment. So my question is, what is the long-term or the short-term and the long-term measures
the government of Kenya has put in place to ensure the protection of Kenyan citizens and fishermen are operating near the Mikingo Island. Because when you look at this, it's like our people still are not sorted. So what measures do you put in place to ensure that at least even with this tension, our people are guarded from the same? And then I would also want to ask if these issues of Mikingo has been between Uganda and Kenya, have you raised this issue of this island in the East African community, in the regional level? And if you've not raised, why don't you raise it so that maybe other partners, countries or states can be of help to us? And Chair, allow me to only one question concerning the financial contribution from the partner states. We realize that those who are in 7%, 14% and 19%, they still draw support and maybe whatever in the East African community. I mean, they are participating, we have people employed from those countries. Now, is there a way follow-up can be done so that they pay? I'm seeing new entry 2024, 2020, 22, 24. I mean, when they are entering or when they are becoming members, do we have something like, before you enter, can you pay this? Or do they just be members and then they pay whatever they manage? From your discussion, you said we don't want to chase them away, but I wish when they are entering to be members, they could pay some, like you pay this amount first. And then, because I'm sure it is affecting us as East African community, when they don't pay, it is affecting the services and the affairs of the community. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. I just need to check how many more members have questions so that we see if PCS can take all the questions together. 1, 2. PCS, is that okay? We just have all the questions coming through? Okay.
My team will help me.
Okay, that's okay. That's in order. So we begin with Mr. Honorable Barasta to come to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I only have one suggestion. If you look at the decision that the Tanzania government have taken, from where I sit, I don't see the problem. Number one, as a country, you must have a clear policy and guideline on who is actually a foreign investor and what are the benefits that our country gets from a foreign investor. From where I sit, there are two things that our country benefits from a foreign investor. Number one is employment opportunities for our people. Or number two, if this person is providing the expertise, the technology that is not available in our country. That being the case, if an individual can employ himself, he is a hawker, or he or she is a hawker, there is no other benefit apart from the benefit drawn by that person himself. That person has no business in a foreign country. And what we need to do as a country is we need to find out how many foreigners are in our country that are doing small businesses that are offering competition to our people, and we have qualified Kenyans who can do the same. In fact, Chair, if you ask me, what Samia Suluhu has done in Tanzania is something worth for benchmarking. We need to learn from it. I was surprised today, even when I took a walk along the back street of Nairobi. I found a Chinese brushing shoes. You know, I was also called some number online when I wanted to supply of some curtains. A Chinese brought some curtains in my house. I think Kenya as a country has been so lenient to these foreigners to the detriment of the people. The only foreigner that we can give incentives and support is a foreigner doing business in Kenya and has an opportunity, has employed more than 10
Kenyan people. I'll give you an example, Honorable PCS. Even when you look at our laws on work permit, they are very clear that an expatriate can be given a work permit. But when you are applying for that work permit, you must attach a CV of a Kenyan personnel where is supposed to be trained for 2 years, then the expatriate will exit, then the Kenyan will pick up the positions. We have expatriates in this country for the last 20 years, for the last 30 years, you know. So all we need to do as a country is that we are doing very well in terms of taking care of our fragile relationships with our foreign countries, but we are doing very badly. We are becoming lazy in terms of enforcing and protecting our Kenyan workers and protecting our Kenyans, because there are very many foreigners who are doing jobs in this country which can be done even better by local people. PCS, we need to take what has happened in Tanzania as a benchmark, and not just to appear to retaliate on what Tanzania has done, but take time and come up with a foreign laws and procedure that will flush out foreigners from all nationalities in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, PCS, for the good presentation. Chair, I'm a surveyor by profession. I participated in the Migingo Island saga, and I would like somebody said something that I remember, the PCS can remember, said that, okay, the water is in your place, but the fish is ours, something like that. Yeah? Would the PCS confirm that actually the international boundaries issue in the Migingo Island and Eribi Triangle are not actually about the position where the border is? It's like a lack of political goodwill. Number two, Chair, we are aware of the existence of East African Competition Authority. Could the Cabinet Secretary tell us how is it assisting us? Is it assisting us for fair practice for the goods that we sell to this the community and whatever we buy from them? Is it assisting us, or it is just a very bad thing? I thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, our chairperson. I want to join colleagues in appreciating the presentation by the Prime Cabinet Secretary. I've looked at just scanned through the report, and one or two issues. The first one is a ministry interact at different levels with the rest of East Africa. I'm sure it's a ministerial level, director level, PS level. I just want to hear from you in terms of assessment of the trust from partner countries. Are we really getting the best out of each country trusting each other? Because I think we have serious trust deficit for this region. And I want to give an example of what has happened in Tanzania. If you look at the report, it says even in contribution, Tanzania, they are also lagging behind. And Tanzania is a big economy. Would understand Burundi lagging behind, would understand Southern Sudan lagging behind. Tanzania is not up to speed in terms of payment, unless I'm getting it wrong from the report. So, that's page 4. Total outstanding, the last column, if you look at that. Tanzania is listed there as having outstanding amount. Kenya is 0, Uganda is overpaid, unless the figures are not up to.
No, they've paid 100%. So that's an audit query that appears in the books.
Oh, okay.
But they have paid 100%.
100%.
I think over only $120,000.
So that's clear. So I would want to hear your input in terms of the trust levels for each of the member states. Mm-hmm. The second issue is, and this is basically like what has happened, while Honorable Barasa was saying there might be need to benchmark, but for me I see like this, it takes a lot of time to establish a business. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of investment, And when you just wake up in the morning and say that this kind of businesses should not be happening in our country, then the question I ask myself is, does it mean you close and go immediately? So, to me, I think we really need to discuss Tanzania as a country. I know from where you sit, you know, guys, you're diplomats. But there are things you call national. The reason why you get to a regional bloc is for national interest. So Kenya's national interest should be interest number one. And then another interest is subsidiary, is either at second or third level. So in a situation where we see the interest of Kenya as a country and the interest of Kenyans becomes like it's not priority number one, I think as a ministry, you really need to do much more. And for example, look at what happened the other day when we, the time of the Tanzania parliamentarians were making their contribution house. You saw the kind of harbors. And we are saying, if we are really brothers and sisters, and we always call ourselves brothers and sisters every time we meet them, the question is, are we living the spirit of a brother and a sister? Or are we pretending? Because at the end of the day, if we continue pretending, then we will not go far. And I was wondering, really, looking at the region now, what we're having, and I'm happy that the Prime Cabinet Secretary said we are now chairing the bloc. We are the chair. We're having issues in Congo, we're having issues in Sudan, we're having issues in Southern Sudan, and to some extent, Kenya has been accused as being part of those challenges. So in a situation where we are chairing, and we have been accused as being part of those challenges, then do we have a clear foreign policy in terms of how to interact with these other foreign countries? And I want to relate that to the issue of China. What is happening now between China, ourselves and the US. We might try to downplay this issue of what the US Senate is doing. But I think we need to agree that at the end of the day, when the US sneezes, a number of other countries actually start coughing. So I think it's important we don't downplay this matter. It's important you as a ministry, you come forward and make sure, and that's the concern of us who are in this committee. Because this is a committee of national integration, which means regional integration, which means all these blocks are important to us as a country. So I want to hear from you, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, in terms of how we relate with other countries for the benefit of Kenya as a country. Do we have a clear policy? And if we get that right, I will be happy. And I just want to say, Honorable Chairperson, I think most countries will have what we call the irreducible minima, that you get to that bottom level, you can't go below that. As a country, do we have that? Now let it, what Honorable Barasa was saying. When I see a Chinese doing shoe polishing, what message are we sending? When I go to the streets there and I find a Congolese selling handkerchief to me in the streets, what are we saying about that? Because I think we need to have a minimum, reducible minimum in terms of qualification, in terms of skill, in terms of benefit to the country. And we go that direction, then we'll be helping the country. I submit, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Mine is on business, because I know one of the benefits of having this relationship in the partner countries is to do business. Now, recently we are having several companies closing down in Kenya and moving to our neighboring countries like Tanzania and Uganda. So my question is, what is the government doing to reverse this? Because somehow we are losing in terms of business. Asante.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Prime Cabinet. Thank you for the presentation. Self-explanatory. Mine is just two quick ones. One is expanding on the issue of foreign policy. I think the Kenyan foreign policy has been confusing for many of the people in Kenya. Kenya has been known to be an allied country, which respects the sovereignty and integrity of most of the countries. We as a committee are not only interested in the community, but with countries within the region. IGAD, AU. So my question is really entailed on the issue of sovereign integrity of countries within the African region. And I'm pointing this because of the way the foreign policy of this country is being run. It could be correct, we could be wrong, but we wanted to know a clear objective when a Sahrawi leadership is hosted in this country. Was that under the blessing of the Moroccan government? When the leader of RSF Sudan is hosted in this country, was that under the blessing of the Sudan government? When Somaliland leadership was hosted in this country, was that under the blessing of Somali government, which is a member of East African Community? If those were not under the blessings of those governments, then that brings the issue of trust. That's why maybe you see our neighbors don't trust us, because we moved out from non-allied. We see ourselves as a partisan. So as Minister of Foreign Affairs, could you just clarify for us whether we are partisan or non-allied in our holding, or whether we respect the integrity of the countries within the African country? Because when we have those clear foreign policies, when we'll get the trust, and that's the time when our economy grows. Lastly, my question is centered on the issue of East African Monetary Institute. I know the law has been passed. From your presentation, you gave us the importance, the financial benefit of this community, where you talked of 500 banks, our M-Pesa services. This will only quadruple if the Monetary Institute, the Central Bank, the Common Currency Institute, want to know the status of that, because the timelines have been kept on being pushed. What is hindering for the establishment of that? Those are my questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, members. Honorable PC, as you can see, our members are very committed to matters of East Africa. So I'll add a few more questions, then you can answer all the questions. One is just on the issue of leniency from our country that Honorable Didmas spoke about. And I'll give you a personal example, Honorable PCS. I remember in 2014, I was working in the banking industry, and I've been assigned to go to Tanzania to train them on our system. And from the Kenyan side, the bank had said I go there, and they're very strict on that timeline. So what he says about us being a bit lenient is really an issue that needs to be addressed. Remember, this is back in 2014, 10 years later. The other issue I wanted to ask was on the East African community, the Ministry of East Africa Community. We had a meeting with them a few weeks ago, and one of the issues that they brought to attention was the budgetary allocation for their state department. And we want to know from your end what you've been able to do to lobby for them so that they have better budgetary allocation for them to be able to do their work. The other one is on the, we got an announcement that was very well received on some of the United Nations headquarters coming to Kenya by 2026. But what I want to really understand from your end is how we have started engaging in preparedness for that. Do we have a task force for us to be able in preparedness for that? Do we have a task force for us to be able to prepare for that in terms of infrastructure and expectations as a country on that? And also, given that this will give us a very strategic positioning as a country within the EAC and African Union, how do we plan to actually take advantage of that and also engage the region in terms of once this comes on board? And also just to mention, because you did speak about wanting us as stakeholders in this particular engagement on our regional integration, that's members of this committee alongside other parliamentarians. 2 days ago, we joined a caucus for Parliament on Parliamentary Forum on East Africa Community Affairs, which I know we will also be engaging your office a lot to just understand how else can we engage to ensure that we are broadening our engagement with our EAC parliamentarians to also just support our country. So thank you. Could have responses to those questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. There are 2 or 3 areas on the issue of the competition authority I will ask our secretary to make a comment there. And there was also another one which was operational. I think she captured them. She'll make some comments. But let me talk to the broader questions that have been raised. And then before we walk out or you release us, then she can summarize the ones that are very specific to the treaties and so forth. First of all, I just want to say that nothing is better than diplomacy. My colleagues, the alternative of diplomacy is confrontation and conflict. So let us not imagine that confrontation is the better way to go. Whatever it is, we must persistently pursue our issues diplomatically. That is important. Now, when we start with the boundaries, as I said, we have an institution under the Ministry of Interior. It's called KIBOS, Kenya International Boundaries Office. No. It is set up. They mark the boundaries, they work with the international community, they work with the UN framework. They are the ones who are legally and technically trained to help us in dealing with the issue of demarcation of boundaries. So we can, and they are professionals the way you are, and I'm sure you know some of them. And there are international frameworks within the UN charters that determine how boundaries are supposed to be delimited and determined between countries. So we cannot work outside that framework. And as I said, it's an expensive exercise. You need a lot of satellite mapping, you need a lot of, as we speak today, even some of the most advanced countries are still grappling with the boundaries, including Russia and Ukraine. You know, the war aside, there are issues of boundaries even in those countries. So this issue around boundaries always takes a lot of time and it requires a lot of process, because after you have come to it, you must also file those instruments with the United Nations to make sure that they are properly accepted and done in accordance with international law before you can say that this is the final position. So it's a long journey, and resources depend on how Parliament allocates resources for that function. So today Kenya may allocate resources, but the Tanzanian side has delayed, or the Ugandan side has delayed. Now you cannot have a one-sided process, because they will say we don't recognize your results because we are not party to the process. So it has to be a combination of diplomacy and moving forward. Let me talk to the issue of the US and Kenya relations. We have good relations with the United States. There is no challenge whatsoever, and we are not downplaying the challenges that may come up once in a while. First of all, please, Madam Chair, let it be on record that it is not the government of the United States that has raised an issue. It's not the executive. It is a motion coming from a member of Senate, not the United States government. So this needs to be put on record, and I think had a I also wish to state that there are some issues that some of us are also surprised about. Because when all is said and done, Kenya is a sovereign state. So Kenya will have its friends. And for whatever it is worth, the principle of sovereignty must be upheld and respected by all nations. But for your information, President Ruto has not made any trip to Russia. Neither has he made a trip to Iran. Neither have I made a trip to Russia or to Iran. Just as an example, to show you how sometimes some issues can be very skewed. So on what basis do you come to a conclusion and say that we want to monitor the relationship between one country and another? We have no challenge whatsoever in working with America. We are working very closely. We are working together on so many other issues, both bilateral programs, regional programs, security-related programs. We work together with the United States, and we also work with the other countries in the region. Why do we talk to Iran? We talk to Iran because Iran has been one of the biggest consumers of tea in this country. It's a big market for Kenya. Now, how do we deal with the tea farmer in Kangaita Tea Factory in Kirinyaga, where he comes from? A very nice factory that I have visited personally. Yeah, you have all those tea factories in Kenya. Smallholder tea factories, KTDA, 69 or 79 tea factories, dotted all over the country. They produce tea, smallholder tea. As a responsible government, we must find markets for our tea farmers. We have to sell our tea. We have to sell our coffee. We have to sell our flowers. So we have to look for markets globally. That is why we signed the EPA, the European Economic Partnership Agreement. That is why we signed CEPA with the United Arab Emirates. That is why we have the East African Community as an economic bloc. That's why we are members of COMESA. That is why we are talking of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Because in all this, we are trying to broaden scope and market for our farmers and our manufacturers. So, Madam Chair, I hope this helps to clarify these issues, and this is not a moment to try and politicize an issue raised from the partnership. We will continue to grow it. Even in matter of security, as we speak, the United States has just moved a motion to support some modest extension of the mission in Haiti, where we are involved in security matters together. So I just want to ask for measured consideration of these issues when we are talking to it, because I'm a human too, but I think there's a concerted effort to try and create the impression that Kenya is under siege or Kenya is under attack. We are not under siege, we are not under attack. We are just doing our job as it should be done. On the issue of how we relate with our neighbors, Class R permits, maybe she wants to speak to it a bit, but as I said, if diplomacy fails, I'll come and declare that the diplomatic channel has failed, and therefore let's use a different method. So let us allow the diplomatic process to go. And I hear what the member said, that maybe the Tanzanian legislation was arrogant, but let's also be fair. Were we kind to them? Yeah, we were not. There were issues that were not also kind, both sides. But I can tell you, I watched the same debate, and our ambassador Njenga in Dar es Salaam, because he attended a parliamentary session in their parliament, and they accorded him a lot of respect. When they were introducing the members of parliament, he was given perhaps the most overwhelming welcome and respect there. But there are issues that we must resolve. And those issues, we say, I'm writing to the Minister for Foreign Affairs to tell him that there are concerns that are being raised about trade and policies that are going contrary to the Treaty of the East African Community, and we would like those to be addressed. So these are issues that we want to handle. But I want to appeal to members. Kenya is the largest economy in the region. On these trade numbers that I've given you, which you look at, Kenya is the one that is earning more in terms of revenue from all the trade in the region compared to the other countries. What does that mean? Okay, so we need to interrogate those numbers. What does it mean? Okay. On the issue of the foreign policy and how we relate, first I want to thank you members, because it is through you that you approved Kenya's foreign policy. Sessional paper number 1 of 2025 was approved in Parliament only a few months ago. We We all participated. We laid the table, the policy on the table. It was canvassed, debated. It came through the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign but Parliament adopted Kenya's foreign policy position, and it is sessional paper number 1 of 2025. So Kenya's foreign policy is in that document, which was ratified by Parliament. So I don't want to say any more about that because we never hid. And our direction and our policy is in the open and ratified by Parliament. So that's the one we are pursuing. And in there we talk of national interest and how we should work on national interest. It's all contained in sessional paper number 1 of 2025 on Kenya's foreign policy. So we have captured all these issues. They are in there. I would say that on the assets abroad, also in the framework of the sessional paper, we have tabulated all our assets abroad in all the countries. We have them in the sessional paper, and we have already indicated how we are setting up a committee to see how we can realize the value of our assets abroad. So, and we'll be coming from time to time because it may require financial allocation, and it's Parliament that allocates resources, and your help in this matter will be very, very helpful. But again, the whole program is in the sessional paper, and the detailed schedule of our assets is there, covering Burundi, all those assets. They're tabulated. And we also want to thank you because in the issue of foreign policy, and I think somebody raised the issue of the difficulty that our diplomats have been going through in different countries. I think you have helped us in the sessional paper to address it, because one of the things you have done is that you have now categorized the foreign service, where it used to be long ago and then it was removed, I don't know why, within the security framework of the security sector working group, because it was regarded as general. But we know if diplomats are compromised, the security of the country can be compromised. So I want to thank Parliament, but through this committee, that particular issue has been addressed in the context of the sessional paper. Now it's for government, the ministries to implement it. On the issue of how to define foreign direct investment and how to treat medium and small scale entrepreneurs, I can say I will take that into account, that these are issues that require a lot of conversation and discussion, both at national level and also within the context of the East African community, so that we can continuously improve that area of the medium to small scale enterprises and traders. How do we treat them? Because cumulatively, their haba na haba contributes very substantially to the global figure of our economy. So we will need to look at that. And broadly, we go through bilateral level agreements in other areas and so forth. But within the East African community. There are protocols already on how we should treat small-scale traders and what have you. And where there's a breach, like what we have seen, we have to address and talk to each other. I want to affirm one thing, that we continue to respect IGAD, African Union, all these entities. We respect them, we work with them. They are entities that are also recognized within the African Union context. We shall continue working with them. And the Vice Chair raised some fundamental issues. I just want to state here that Kenya is not in any way involved in any hostile activities with any of its neighbors or any other African country. There's a lot of this talk in the papers, but we are not involved, and we've said it several times. I've attended the peace meetings in Paris on Sudan. I've attended the peace meetings in London on Sudan. Kenya continues to participate in humanitarian activities of Kenyans in Sudan through organizations like World Food Program and others. And we've lost some lives of Kenyans in that place. And I think it should also go on record that when the conflict hit its worst in the beginning, Kenya evacuated so many people from Sudan, and they are here. Kenya has facilitated those people, including not just Sudanese people, but also other UN staff and other people. They came here. As a rescue mission, the Kenyan flights went there. Even when they had lost their documents, the Kenyan government facilitated and brought these people here to keep them. And on the issue of Sudan, because this is important, the warring parties must eliminate the notion that it will be a military solution. The issue in Sudan is not going to be solved through a military solution. The protagonists must go to the negotiating table. We don't even have a common border with Sudan. My dear Kenyans, we don't even have a common border with Sudan. So, let the warring parties sort themselves out. Kenya has a history. When South Sudan was in conflict, the agreement, comprehensive peace agreement, was signed in Kenya. Kenya hosted different South Sudanese people, and they signed the agreement here at Nyayo Stadium. Kenya continues to be involved in peace processes, whether it is Tumaini Initiative and others, to help South Sudan. Yesterday,